Middays with Q starts now. Can you hear me?
I got to reload.
See? And see, I end up going there perfectly. Just lining up the whole 9 yards. And then, so Middays with Q coming up here as Ricardo Quinones will jump back in here momentarily. Middays with Q here on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. He will jump back into the screen in about 3, 2, 1 here. Can you see me?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. 12 o'clock straight up on the East Coast. It is indeed, as mi hermano just mentioned, Middays with Q. It's a Tuesday edition. We'll take you right up to 1 o'clock straight up. 60 minutes to play with. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Angel Martinez on the other side of glass producing the show. We are coming to you live inside the Riptide Media Network studios in conjunction with Sports Radio 102.9 The Game, Broad Street South. Don't forget, you guys can chime in over the next 60, bring something to the table, 727-858-6650. You can tweet at me, at RichQ on Q. Busy show, about 20 minutes, Lloyd Vance on the NFL. We'll kind of take a little deeper dive in what's going on with those Florida teams, the Bucks, Miami, the Jags. You've got some players getting paid. I also want to get into some of these younger quarterbacks and also some of these veteran quarterbacks in the NFL that are, I believe, going to be severely under the hot seat, under a microscope come September. We will get into the fallout with the Caitlin Clark situation, which at this point, it's almost become comical how a lot of people are kind of walking back their comments. And look, I mean, have some talking heads maybe have said a couple of certain things out of line. Yeah, I think so at the end of the day. And I think sometimes what rubs people the wrong way is we might have some truth behind what is said or what we say, and we just don't want to admit it. We don't want to acknowledge it. And I get it. I understand. I mean, it's just the way of the world. It's the way society is. We are just so fast to just take a tippet, take a comment and just misconstrue it. You know, we always talk about, walking it back. It doesn't necessarily happen like that, to be quite honest with you. So I think, again, we talked about it yesterday. Corey Parson joined me on Middays with Q. It's up, obviously, on Broad Street South YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. I think the bottom line is this. When you've got a player of Caitlin Clark's stature and understanding, yes, there were other players that obviously came before Caitlin Clark. We understand that. We know that. We can acknowledge that. But all I'm saying is, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's okay to give flowers to a player. It's okay to give flowers to a player and not do it in such a jealous, a hateful fashion. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And I think the problem is that we want to, make it where we want to support her. We want to make it where we want the league to do well, but we also have to understand a couple things. You are, again, kind of kicking a gift horse in the mouth. You are basically taking a player that is going to make a substantial amount of money for the league. We already see the attendance is up on another level. And we're kind of taking it and we're not doing right by it. And no one's saying that you have to be soft with your approach. No one's saying you don't have to have a basketball player. No one's saying you shouldn't foul her. But again, it's almost set up to a certain extent where you just have a player that ultimately is going to bring in the eyeballs. And she's a really good player. And for other players to sit there and come out and say what they're saying, we kind of already know that it is a situation where there's jealousy, there's pettiness at the end of the day. I mean, Caitlin Clark, as I mentioned, signed a shoe deal that's worth $28 million. Not a lot of players in the WNBA can say that. Not a lot of players in the NBA can say that. We know the disparity of how much the leagues are going to make. We understand that the NBA is going to make billions of dollars. We know that the WNBA is trying to make millions of dollars. But when you've got 10, 11 national games and you're basically riding this kid on a bad team and you're sticking her in prime time, what does that say? Right? What does that say? And I just think at the end of the day, you've got a player now that is, and probably Joey. I mean, that's potential. I mean, look, we know the hair is the money shot for me. We understand that, but appreciate you tuning in, pal. 727-858-6650. Listen, we've got players that have come before her, and we've got players that have come after her. And it's funny, I've already gotten people hitting me up after yesterday's show talking about on Facebook. If I'm Caitlin Clark, I might just turn around and just say, the hell with this. Let me go play in Europe. Let me really screw the league. And listen, is the league going to survive without Caitlin Clark? Yeah, but I think the eyeballs that you've gotten on what the Fever are doing and the rest of the league in its entirety, you want it for the positive. And the perception right now is that the league is hating on Caitlin Clark. The perception right now is that the players just don't want to support. Yeah, the beer too. Absolutely. Brian, my man, Brian chimes in. Appreciate that. Hey, do not forget, and we keep it rolling. Don't forget to download the app as well. Sports Radio 1029 The Game. Appreciate you, Brian. Tell the friends, tell the friends, tell the friends. Listen, I would think of it like this. In the NFL, when you've got young quarterbacks, Caleb Williams is going to go through it. He's going to have the growing pains. We know that. And they're going to try to, hit him, sack him, have him rush out of the pocket. I'm not going to say on the same level because in basketball, it's a little different, a little more one-on-one contact. You got to get to the quarterback in the NFL. There's escapability factor. But point being, you have to at the end of the day, overcome that. You have to basically just have the thicker skin. And you also have to support. You have to protect some of these players. Joey B. Caitlin Clark will have the last laugh. Percent 7 years from now, she'll be the money machine. Yeah, that all the other players have benefited from. And that's I agree. But the players and some people don't want to push that narrative. You've got players that are coming out. No disrespect. And I like Angel Reese. I'm not a big fan of some of her antics and what she says, but no disrespect to her. They're not coming out to watch you. I'm sorry. They're not. The Fever in all their home attendance last year had 81,000 combined. That was their home attendance for the whole season. They've already surpassed that. So the numbers don't lie. And I find it funny. Look, I don't like what McAfee said. I just think, it's wrong to say something like that. And I think he's probably thinking to himself, yeah, maybe behind closed doors, maybe they're kind of yucking it up and having that conversation. But that's inappropriate terminology. And that's a disrespect to females. And that's a disrespect to the players in the league. All I'm saying is, if everyone wants to benefit, if you've been grinding, it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. And that's what she's trying to provide. That's all I'm saying. And that's kind of what I was talking about on yesterday's show. And I think sometimes stuff gets lost in the sauce. Sometimes there is an issue when we want to put it in context, and it's not always the same thing. And I think that the fact that they're showcasing these players, this league, we're talking about it, tells you something. So you got the fallout from that. We'll continue to take your comments as well. WNBA teams now flying charter flights too. Money coming in, start to cascade throughout the league. And Reese needs to understand Clark and Reese could be the new Bird Magic combination. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far, right? We're not talking 79 Indiana State, Michigan State. But to your point, you're right. Maybe it's saving the league, and Bird and Magic, certainly. We can't dispute that. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson saved the NBA. The ratings were fledgling. It was a bad product, the NBA. And then you've got these two teams going at it pretty much in the NBA Finals every year in the 80s. I mean, that's crazy when you think about it. It really is. And it was spearheaded, the catalyst were those two players. All right, 10 past 12 o'clock hour, just cranking up on a Tuesday edition, Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here, Angel Martinez behind the glass, 727-858-6650. I'll get some of your Facebook comments as well. And yeah, people, like I said, it is a hotbed type of conversation, right? When you think about it. And we just sometimes want to stick certain sensitive subjects to the side because it makes everyone feel uncomfortable. The other story to come down today, MLB, Major League Baseball, has permanently banned Tucupita Mercado after determining that the infielder placed hundreds of bets on baseball, including wagers on games involving the Pittsburgh Pirates when he was with the team last season. They have handed down a lifetime ban, and this is all in conjunction to violated Rule 21D, two of the league's betting rules, policies, conduct. Apparently, this was really not a very good gambler, by the way. MLB found that he placed 387 bets, including 231 MLB-related wagers between October 16th, 2022, November 1st, 2023, totaling over $150,000. Major League Baseball says 25% of those bets included wagers on Pirates games while he was on the team's Major League roster. He did not appear in any of those games because he was on the injured list. I think there were a couple other. You also have a pitcher from the A's, Michael Kelly, declared ineligible for 1 year. You also have San Diego's Jose Rodriguez of the Phillies, Jay Groomer of San Diego. And then I think there's one more player with the Diamondbacks were banned for a year for betting on Major League games. They said they were tipped off. Now, here's the caveat, right? They were tipped off about the betting activity by a legal sports betting operator. None of the players punished played in any games or which they wagered, and all players denied to MLB they had inside. Everyone's got the inside friggin' information relevant to their bets or the games they bet on. So, as Angel kind of talked about during his show, and I'm sure Pete brought up during his show, it's prevalent. This is very prevalent in the world of sports. It is. It's going to be more prevalent with the players. I think they're going to have a say. They're going to have a hand in this. Again, this is something that we don't want to bring up. It's something that we don't like to talk about. But again, this is kind of where we're at in baseball. And I don't necessarily like it, and I don't necessarily agree with it. But I believe ultimately you're going to have some of these players. You're going to have notable players in sports get pinched. And then everyone's going to be in a hoorah. Everyone's going to be in uproar. And unfortunately, the leagues have done it to themselves by getting in bed with the gambling element, the gambling apps, what have you. All right, 13 past 12 o'clock hour. We'll crank it up on the other side. Don't forget 727-858-6650. That'll get you involved in a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q. We'll get to some more tweets. We'll get into some of your Facebook. And like I said, people were arguing with me yesterday talking about Caitlin Clark, and she's just soft. When I say protect the player, all I'm saying is don't go out of your way to injure the player, because then all of a sudden, who's going to come to these games if she's not playing? Who's going to watch the games if she's not on the floor? That's all I'm saying. So, all right, quick timeout. Lloyd Vance as well. 13 past 12 o'clock hour. Keep it locked in as always. 727-858-6650. Tuesday edition of Middays with Q, powered by Riptide Media Network. And of course, live on Sports Radio 1029 The Game. You can also check us out on Broad Street South, the YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel live going on right now, Rich Q on Q. Do not forget to download the Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game app. 12:15, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Yes. Good stuff, Angel. 18 past the 12 o'clock hour. Bring it up. There we go. 18 past 12 o'clock hour, a Tuesday edition. Middays with Q. You guys are unbelievable. The nonsense I see on Facebook already, and already some of the comments on X are just absolutely amusing. And appreciate you, Brian. Thank you. It is, I'm telling you, ultimately, it is a Joey B. Exactly. Q. Hard fouls are one thing, part of the gig as a rookie, but going out of your way to hurt, class is bad to look for the league. Yeah, I don't know why people are so. I think we get very uncomfortable talking about uncomfortable things. Now, the man to my right, or depending upon how you're watching this, my left, Lloyd Vance, never gets too uncomfortable talking about things. 20 past the 12 o'clock hour, we'll welcome in our NFL insider, Lloyd Vance, and of course, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football 1029 The Game. And as always, you guys are tuned in to Tuesday edition of Middays with Riptide Media Network. 1029 The Game. Don't forget to download the app. What's going on, Lloyd?
Not too much. How you doing, Q? Great to talk to you.
Hey, and he hears us. All right. Hey, let me ask you something. So right now, are you following this WNBA Caitlin Clark nonsense?
I mean, I see it. I'm a sports guy, so obviously, she's a rookie coming in with all the flash, and they want to give her comeuppance, and it's almost I can almost equate it to in the NFL. Remember when Tim Tebow came and everybody was like so done with him coming from the University of Florida, and then he was the big name, the big brand, and they wanted to see if he was a real deal. And I think Caitlin Clark though is obviously a better player than Tim Tebow was coming into NFL, but
that's the difference.
I think eventually this will die down, and she showed in college that she had great mettle. She was a great player.
Yeah, the difference is, right, everyone wanted to knock Tebow down on his ass for other reasons too, right? I mean, some of his political views, his come to Jesus' moments, and hey man, I go to church, don't worry, I'm all, I hear you, man, don't worry about it. But I think it's one of these things where they kind of sometimes it was pushing. And again, Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, and of course, ESPN NFL contributor, Black College Football Hall of Fame Selection Committee. All right, so I want to give a little focus, a little love as we kind of go around the league. Just kind of highlight what's going on in Riptide Media Network's world. And of course, Angel and Pete and the gang with the teams in Florida, Miami Dolphins, Tampa Bay Bucks, and wanted to kind of dive into those two teams respectively for a moment. Then we'll go as we typically do around the league. But I look at Tampa Bay, and we loved what we saw last year with Baker. They had the big win against Philadelphia Eagles. They smacked them around the wild card. I know this team, they wanted to, I guess, fill some holes, if you will. If you're a Bucks fan, they're already, think about this. They're going on the road week 1 against Washington. They're getting 4, but they drafted the edge rusher out of Alabama. They got the kid, the center, Barton, out of Duke. They drafted the kid from Alabama in the second round, Braswell, I think it was. They went safety with Smith. They pulled a wide receiver, McMillan, in the third round from Washington. So they're trying to plug and play some holes right now, but I still believe the success at Tampa will fall on that offensive line. And we had this question when it came to Jared Goff a couple years ago. We're going to have it now with Baker Mayfield, who finally found a home and a place in the NFL and got paid. Are we going to be able to see the consistency from Baker Mayfield now, another season with Tampa Bay after he bounced around a little bit?
Well, Q, it's going to be interesting because you have Canales, who went to Carolina to become head coach. He leaves the offense coordinator. They get Liam Cohn coming over, a former disciple of McVay, coming from the Rams system. And he's going to get Baker his opportunity to throw the football. And we know he's not as dynamic thrower as Matthew Stafford or something like that. But he had that bounce back season, as you were talking about last year. And they want to keep him upright. He did take a lot of hits, so they bring Graham Barton in. One of the highest drafted centers out there. He's going to step in the middle of that line. They got Sue Opeta coming over from the Eagles as well. And then, of course, they have Tristan Wirfs, their cornerstone left tackle. So, good season for them last year, 9-8. They finished with a flurry. They won 4 of their last 5 games. Obviously, with Angel, I broke down a lot of that Eagles game where they just destroyed the Eagles in the playoffs. They did a great job there. And Todd Bowles, I'm not saying he saved his job, but he's not as much on the hot seat. So this team is building. And let's face it, in that division, they got a very good chance because, yes, the Falcons have brought in Kirk Cousins but the Saints, they're still kind of downtrodden. And we know that Carolina is probably one of the worst teams in the league. So I think Tampa Bay has a very good opportunity, and we'll see if they're able to continue to build upon it.
Yeah, they won 9 games last year. The Saints won 9 games as well, but the quarterback play was sporadic. Atlanta won 7, hence the move for Cousins, but yet they drafted Penix. And then you mentioned Carolina, 2-15. I do think Tampa Bay right now, I think they're right in line. I'm still not sold on what Cousins coming off that injury is going to give to Atlanta. And if they start off slow in the NFC South, then you're going to hear the whispers for Penix. Kind of like we talked a little bit about what's going on with, Fields and Russell Wilson, right? I mean, they're waiting to see if the young kid could supplant the rookie. And then you got the Miami Dolphins. And I think the Miami Dolphins are kind of a very, you look at them and say, okay, this is an intriguing team because of the offense. I'm a big fan of Tua. I know he slimmed down a little bit. They put a substantial amount of points up on the board consistently week to week. We saw what they did, Denver, 70 points. But they were leaking some oil. late in the season. They dropped 3 of 5. They obviously could not handle the elements going on the road, Kansas City in the cold, losing 26-7. Now the question is, okay, are they going to lock up Tua long term? And if they do, or as they're thinking about potentially doing that, is that the right decision? So when you look at Tua, has he stabilized the quarterback position enough for the Miami Dolphins where you're comfortable locking him up for the next 5, 6, 7 years as their face of the franchise and starting quarterback?
Yeah, this is tough decisions in today's NFL, and you're seeing guys like Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones. They're getting these big contracts, and I'd have to put him in that ilk. I don't think he's a $50 million quarterback, but he's probably going to get upwards, $45 to $50 million a season. I think he has proven that given the weapons he has, he can make some plays. But Q, you got to wonder, is he a guy that's going to be able to win consistently in the postseason? Now, he kind of put aside all the concussion issues last year. He played in all the games and did a good job finishing the season. But it is kind of odd that we did see him and he lost all that weight. So you're wondering, all right, is he ready to take that pounding that's coming up this season? Now, when I look at the Miami Dolphins, so much explosive firepower offensively. They just re-signed Jalen Waddle. You have Tyreek Hill, one of the most explosive players in the game today. And then they have the pretty good running back situation as well. But defensively, we know their biggest problem was injuries at the end of the season. Phillips with the Achilles, Chubb with the ACL, and they were good with the pec. There was a lot of injuries, and they're going to have to figure that thing out defensively, especially now that they've lost Fangio as well coming up to the Eagles.
You will. So you're looking at this team right now. You mentioned that they have the triplets. I'm not going to go and say they're like the Dallas Cowboys back in the day. But again, I think that when you add in their mix of running backs, when you've got and pardon me for having mute for a second, you can hear the lawnmowers in the back, but they've got the very good running backs. They got some weapons. And now you're hoping that Tua can stay upright at the end of the day. I'm looking at this team where I think they compete because I'm not high on the Jets. I'm not high on Rodgers, even though everyone else is. I think the Patriots are poorly constructed with their coaching staff and their roster. And then Buffalo Bills, your guess is as good as mine. Miami should win 10, 11, 12 games. The question is, when you go up against a defense where you're forced to run the football and not consistently throw it, that's where the issues start.
Yes, and last year 11-6, and as you said, they put up a lot of points, particularly early in the season. They looked like one of the best in the National Football League, but kind of stumbled down the stretch, going 2-3 in their last 5 games. In the division, though, they were able to hang with everybody, 4-2 in their division. This division's in flux. It's one of those ones when you look at it top to bottom, as you say, it's like, okay, Buffalo, they lose Diggs, and there's a lot of changing pieces there. Josh Allen has that window started closing on them. Yep. And then obviously the over-the-hill gang with the New York Jets. Are they going to be able to put this all together for one season and have Aaron Rodgers moving up to 41 years old able to compete? So this is going to be a fun season to watch the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to find out very early, Q. I was looking at their schedule, who they're going to be. They play in week 2. They host Buffalo on a Thursday night. That's going to be a big game. Then they turn around week 3. They're at Seattle. That's going to be tough. They have their bye in week 6. I'm looking forward to that. Seeing that. Week 9, they're at Buffalo. Week 10 at the Rams. They play at Green Bay on Thanksgiving. And then you have the Jets in week 14, and they finish the season at the Jets as well. And you also have San Francisco week 16. So they have a pretty tough schedule coming up.
Yeah.
They play 7 playoff teams. They're on primetime 5 times. So people do want to see the Miami Dolphins because of the explosiveness and the points they're able to put up. But that defense is going to have to answer call in all those tough matchups that I pointed out there.
Yeah, no doubt. 12:30 midway through a Tuesday edition. Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. Angel Martinez behind the glass. Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, Sports Radio 1029 FM. The Game, joining us. Give Lloyd a follow on X at Lloyd Vance. We'll take you up to 1 o'clock as well. Don't forget, we're live on my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q, across various platforms. Download the app, as we always say, if you guys want to get in on the conversation. 727-858-6650. Yeah, it's just, I feel as though when you look at, again, so many great offenses, right, around the NFL. Well, I shouldn't say so many great, a handful, but they're so explosive. When you look at Hill, big threat, 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns. You look at Mostert. You look at their other back, Aiken, if I butchered his name, they're going over 1,000 yards, right? You look at Tua, 4,000, 5,000 yards. You got to go back to the early 70s, Zonka, Warfield, Kick, Bob Greasy. So I think the pressure is on, but I feel as though Tua is that quarterback where, and I know I'm going to get the comments in right now, it's like you're dating that girl and for some reason, or you're dating a guy, whatever, if you're a female listening in, for some reason, depending upon where you take them out, they look good in certain lighting, right? So it's like, I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that Seinfeld skit with the Two-Face, and all of a sudden, hey man, now this is a good looking diner. This is a good looking booth. Like, I feel as though people look at Tua, and some days, hey man, he's a good looking cat. The lighting, everything fits, it works. And then other days, oh, not so much. Let's kind of keep you to the back. They're not 100% confident to be seen outside with him. That's how I feel the Dolphins are.
Yeah, Q, it's that trade up with Tua. Yes, he made the Pro Bowl and maybe borderline top 10. But when you put him against Herbert, you put him against Burrow, you put him against Patrick Mahomes, obviously Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I mean, the AFC is so crowded with top level quarterbacks out there. He's just lower tier than those guys, and then you wonder, can he beat them straight up head to head? Yes, he may be able to beat them in an early season game, but late in the season, in the playoffs when it matters most, it just doesn't seem to be possible. And you talked about that playoff game. They were just kind of outclassed. I know they were injured defensively, but the Chiefs took it to them in that game. So, Tua has a lot to step up and prove. But as I said earlier, this is the market we're in with these quarterbacks, where they're paying these guys so much money. And you have to wonder, are they really worth it? And at this point, unless their record's really bad, they got to stick with him, because they're not going to get a high enough draft pick to kind of turn that position over at this point.
Well, there's the rub, right? I mean, you're drafting these quarterbacks, whether they're top 10, top 15, you believe they're going to be the face of the franchise, and they can come off one or two spectacular seasons, i.e. the Giants and Daniel Jones, and all of a sudden, let's lock you in 4 years at $160, and then you tear up your knee. I mean, I still think the quarterback position, the reason they get paid the most, this, is because they touch the football the most. They're the face of the franchise. You can literally go through the NFL, and if I give you 32 faces and they happen to all be quarterbacks, you'll know exactly what teams they play on. Or you can look at these guys and say, yeah, he's a quarterback of team A, B, C, D. Now, the wide receiver position, which we're going to get into right now, that is a whole different animal, because you saw the numbers that Justin Jefferson, secured 4-year, $140 million contract, right? I mean, think about that. Jefferson's getting Daniel Jones type of money, and he's one of the most explosive wide receivers in the NFL. You're talking $88 million guaranteed, do it signing. So all of a sudden the ink is dry. Here you go. Here's your check. Have a good day. Don't forget to give the agent 10%. But, listen, you're locking up these quarterbacks, right? I mean, that's just how it is. That's exactly what these teams are doing. They want to lock up the quarterback, and they also want to lock up the stud wide receiver. But with all that being said right now, who's throwing him the football? Right? Is it Darnold? Is it Hall? Is it going to be J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah, it's crazy, Q, because this is the new world in the National Football League. And it's all built off this 7-on-7 culture, in terms of the youth and then all the way up. It's a passing league first. So, yes, you want that cornerstone quarterback and the receiver. The receiver market is now just booming. and I can't wait to see what CeeDee Lamb is going to get. And let's not forget last year, he led the NFL in receptions. So he's due a new contract as well. He's probably going to be up there with Jefferson, and much deserved to Justin Jefferson, obviously. Tremendous talent. I heard his guarantee could be up to 110 on this. So, $110 million. So it's crazy that we're talking about these numbers for these receivers, but you're right. Somebody's got to give him the football. And then, as always in football, we always talk about this kind of monopoly money. Let's not forget that, people, but he's going to get a large portion of this contract. It's not like the olden days where, it's very backloaded and a lot of those numbers were kind of made up in thin air. But it's going to be interesting to see how the Vikings are able to kind of move around that situation. They do have a lot of weapons on that team with Addison, with Jefferson, and now they got the running back coming over as well. Jones coming from the Green Bay Packers. But the big question mark is the quarterback. They obviously, J.J. McCarthy, they think that he's their guy, but I think it's going to take at least 1 to 2 years for him to develop. He's not going to be able to step in.
Yeah, and by the way, you're bringing over, Jones, the running back, when you already have a crowded backfield, but that's a story for another day. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb. I don't think he's on par or as explosive with Jefferson. I think he has the benefit right now of having a better quarterback in Dak Prescott throwing him the football. I mean, I don't know what kind of numbers you're potentially looking at, but he sees his contract right now. He's on the phone with his agent and say, hey, man, my man JJ just turned around and got 4 years, $140. What am I worth? Now he had 135 catches. He had 1,800 yards. He said he wants to remain with the Cowboys. But again, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, if my quarterback struggles, they're not going to sign my quarterback. So I might have another quarterback in a year or so. I mean, listen, you're thinking about getting paid first, but I'm sure somewhere in a crowded room when he's talking with his agent and whatnot, you got to lay it all out. I mean, do we put him on par on the level of Justin Jefferson?
CeeDee Lamb's right up there. It's CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. I mean, these guys are explosive. But the thing is, Q, with receivers, teams are going to continue building around their quarterback. Yeah, receiver, they'll give them their payday, but eventually they'll step off of those guys. Look at Stephon Diggs. He's going to his third team now at this point. Teams are able to move on and saying, okay, we'll find somebody else. And let's not forget about the replenishment in the draft because – you got these guys coming in like Rome Odunze. People are so excited for him to come into the league. Marvin Harrison Jr. There's just so many great receivers coming out of college football today. Malik Neighbors is another name guy coming in there. And the pipeline is just overflowing for receivers. So good for him that he guy's payday. But it's just going to be interesting to see if this trend continues and if teams want to invest so much money there. Now, another team you really got to talk about in terms of investment is the Eagles. The Eagles have 2 of the highest paid receivers out there. They paid Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown is now currently the second highest paid receiver in the National Football League.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you bring up. And listen, they're going to want to have to pay their players too, especially on the defensive side of the ball. 12:40. Got 20 minutes to play with. We'll take you up to 1 o'clock. Don't forget Monday to Friday, Pete Shepard Show 7 to 10. Angel Martinez, who's behind the glass producing the show. Martinez and Company 10 to 12. And myself, Middays with Q, 12 to 1, part of the Riptide Media Network. Also, download the app, Sports Radio 102.9 FM, The Game, Broad Street South. We're live on that YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Rich Q on Q. Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us. I saw the Darren Waller is set to retire, contemplating retirement. Here's where I'm going to tell you. And I was told this many years ago by a coach, and I was told this many years ago by I guess you can say a scout when you deal with some of these veteran players. If you're talking about retiring, you're retiring. I mean, really, when you think about it. And in this case, make all the albums you want. Drop all the beats and the bars you want. I'm aggravated because I was actually excited when the Giants made the move for Waller. Did I think they were going to get the Waller of 2019, 2020 that had back-to-back 1,200-yard campaigns? No. But I also learned from the Kenny Golladay, signing that it might blow up in my face. I mean, this guy gave you nothing. He gave you absolutely nothing. Now, listen, I can appreciate the fact that he had a lot of off-the-field issues and alcoholism and, step by step, day by day. I totally fantastic. And if you don't want to play, you don't want to play. But you can't be a little friggin' pregnant. You can't. And at this point, even though it's a tight end position, it's still, holding up a roster spot, and he was going to be a viable option to this offense. So I don't know, man. I mean, the thing coming out of Giant OTAs is that Brian Daboll shed some pounds. Hey, that's great. Is that going to get me more friggin' wins on a Sunday?
Yeah, Darren Waller, he only played about 9 games last year. Very injured, very beat up, and he wasn't the same guy coming over for the Raiders. And as you said, it's probably time for him to walk off in the sunset, because usually when somebody's beat up like that, it's just not going to end very well. Now, the Giants, it's going to be interesting to see what happens up in New York here. You got Malik Neighbors that I talked about. He's coming there as a big draft pick, but Saquon's gone. Daniel Jones, is he truly healthy? Is he ready to play? Right now, I have to say in the NFC East, it's looking like the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys in that division are going to fight that thing out. So the Giants, they have a tough road to travel right now.
Rangers get bounced. Knicks get bounced. Yankees will most likely lose in the divisional round, because that's what they friggin' do. And I got to worry about waking up on a Sunday watching a friggin' offense that's not even going to be able to move the friggin' football down the field and score 17 points. Really? I mean, seriously. I'm not trying to feel bad for myself. I'm not playing the martyr card. I don't need this nonsense in my life.
Well, Q, maybe you'll catch lightning in a bottle. You never know.
With what? With what? With what?
I'm trying to be nice here, man. It's looking like it's going to be a long season.
Did you hear? I guess they were doing the pod the other day, and they asked CJ Stroud, what career would you rather have, Aaron Rodgers or Eli Manning? And he said Eli, right? Because all we're talking about is rings. That's all we're talking about. Like, for everyone that wanted to run certain players off the team, out of New York, off the franchise, look where they're at now. I mean, there's nothing to really hang your hat on with the Giants. I mean, I had a Corey Parson on yesterday, and he's a Dallas guy. He said, and I ask you this as we close with the Cowboys, because I want to get your thoughts on the passing of Larry Allen. But he said he thinks, or he believes, because of the way this roster is constructed for the Dallas Cowboys, they're looking at maybe 4 to 5 wins, and it's a tank job because they're looking to get rid of Dak. They're looking to get rid of Mike McCarthy. They're looking to bring in maybe Sanders' kid, draft him. And then I made the comment, well, then you might as well go after the hoodie, right? So, I mean, can you imagine an NFC East where the Eagles win 10, 11 games, Washington's improved, Dallas stinks, and the Giants continue to stink? You might, again, see another movement when it comes to the coaching carousel. Brian Daboll out, Mike McCarthy out. And if the Eagles really struggle and go 6-11, 7-10, or get bounced in the first round of the playoffs again, maybe Nick Sirianni gets fired.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation there, but it's something that could happen, Q. The Eagles right now on paper have a very good roster, but it's got to all come together. And you talked about the big question mark of Nick Sirianni, and then Jalen Hurts got to have a bounce back season. The Giants, I'm looking at their roster now. Joe Shane, their GMs, he's got a big job to do, and you're right, Brian Daboll. There's just not a lot there, so I think they're going to struggle as well. It's crazy. We just got to wait and see how this thing plays out. But Dallas as well, they are setting up because everybody's coming there as a lame duck. Last year's their contract. I'm not sure Jerry Jones is even going to give CeeDee Lamb that contract. He may let him play out his 5th-year option, and then he's just going to wait and see how this whole thing turns out. But Dallas, that's going to be a big soap opera all season. We're going to watch this Dak get that new contract, and Trey Lance. They're already talking him up. Are they going to keep him around? It's just one big nightmare waiting to happen. But it's going to be fun to watch it. And we know the NFC East changes around every year. Dallas coming off 2 straight 12-win seasons. But can they keep that pattern going? I don't think so.
Yeah, and then you had the unfortunate passing of Dallas Cowboys Hall of Fame offensive lineman Larry Allen. Died Sunday. Suddenly, he was on vacation with his family in Mexico. The team announced that yesterday. He was just 52. I mean, I hate it when the Giants had to go up against those Dallas Cowboys squads because, it was just, he was so strong, the athleticism, the strength. I mean, just a respected, accomplished lineman. I think Justin Tuck mentioned, man, he dreaded going up against him because the way he can slide over, I mean, he'd take you out from rushing. You just weren't able to get any type of momentum. You weren't able to get to the quarterback. I mean, here's a guy that was the anchor of that offensive line, but man, 52 years old. Whew,
Yeah,
way too young.
It was crazy, and what a dominant player. He comes out of Sonoma State and small school guy. I remember watching him like in the East-West Shrine game, and you're like, does it equate to National Football League? But he was a dancing bear, as you said, Q. And when he got his hands on somebody, it was over. And I still remember he set the bench press record. You remember that? Like
700 pounds.
And like the bars bending, and he's just pushing that thing on.
Right.
Like, wow, this guy could bench press a Buick,
Yep.
And that's what a dominant player was. But he had great feet, kept Troy Aikman clean, Emmitt Smith all those yards, and it is unfortunate passing. Obvious Hall of Famer, and he will be missed.
Yeah, the offensive line position in the NFL, we don't talk about it. The only time we talk about it is when we're pulling up stats on a Monday or you're recapping a game and you say the quarterback wasn't touched and he wasn't hit. Well, that's because of the friggin' offensive line, right? The difference between having great run blockers and great pass protectors. I mean, I would listen, if I can throw an offensive line together, right? If I take a little bit of the Miami Dolphins and the Steelers of the 70s, if I mix in a little 49ers of the 80s, right? If I even go to Dallas over the last several years and the Eagles, if I can give the Giants that offensive line, I would be able to sleep well at night. I mean, when you look at 2007, 2011, the runs, it was consistent, right? The continuity, Seibert, Snee, O'Hara, McKenzie, Deal. There's no more consistency in the NFL, man. But if you don't have an offensive line, I don't care who's under center. I don't care who your quarterback is. Your season's going to be wrecked. So Allen actually stabilized those great offensive lines for the Dallas Cowboys and won a Super Bowl in '95 with them.
Yeah, and the thing is, everybody's talking about these bonus baby quarterbacks and the receivers and everything, but you got to have the guys up front to keep them clean and be able to throw the football all over the field. And every team, they have these cornerstone positions. You got to have a quarterback. You got to have a good left tackle, and you got to have somebody that can cover these receivers. So, premium position. Everybody's looking for those guys, and that's why you see in the draft every year, you see reaches for some of these guys because they're just hoping they can be that cornerstone left tackle. But that's what he was. He was a true road grader, and these guys don't come around, but every so often, an all-decade player.
Yeah, great stuff to close. Lloyd Vance will join us every single solitary week. We'll double up during the football season as we've done in years past. We'll give Vance his view. We'll do our picks on Thursdays and Fridays, Football Friday as well. You can catch him during the week, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029 FM The Game, part of the Broad Street South Network, on social as well at Lloyd Vance. All right, next week we got to get back to breaking down these divisions. We got to look at some futures. I know we've been fluctuating. We'll also do that on BYP later in the week. We'll put that on the YouTube channel, but always appreciate a couple moments. And as some of the viewers have noted, the hat is back. Look at him. He's just the Dapper Don. Hat tip to you. I always appreciate you, my friend.
All right, bro. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You got it, brother. There you have it. Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us for a couple minutes. All right. We got about 10 to play with. We'll take a quick timeout. If Angel says green light, take quick timeout. Yeah, definitely. Quick timeout. Got about 10 to play with. We'll come back on the other side. We'll wrap things up. As always, keep it locked in. It's a Tuesday edition of Middays with Q coming at you exclusively on Riptide Media Network and powered by Sports Radio 1029 FM The Game.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all.
Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Well, 53 on the East Coast. We'll take you up to 1 o'clock. I was just seeing Devontae Smith wasn't second guessing his contract extension because it's kind of been dwarfed by other signings. I mean, he brought up a really good point. Hey, it's life-changing money and we're still blessed. Tuesday edition Middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. We'll take you up to 1 straight up. Angel Martinez on the other side of the glass, keeping us on the air. He hosts Martinez and Company Monday to Friday, 10 to 12. That, of course, follows Pete Shepard Show, 7 to 10, Monday to Friday, right here on Riptide Media Network and exclusively on Sports Radio 102.9 The Game. Do not forget to download the app. Download the app. Tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friggin' friends. Download the apps. Good stuff from Lloyd Vance on the NFL. Yeah, you got to start, giving a little of what's going down there with the Bucs, and we'll dive into a little more of the Jags and the Miami. I looked at Tua. I just saw photos of him. Man, he really, I didn't even recognize him. He looks like really thinned and leaned out. And I don't know if he went vegan. I don't know what was going on with the diet. Angels to my left, angels now to my right. What's going on? Izquierda, derecha. What's going on?
Just switching it up. Keeping him on their toes, doing the workout here, the visual workout. But is he ripped or he leaned down?
He leaned down.
Nice.
Yeah. substantially leaned down. If you look at some of the photos, I mean, I get it. Donovan McNabb, all those years, people don't realize McNabb started to get hurt when he really started to lift weights. He had all that
Really?
bulk. Oh yeah. If you go back, yep. Donovan McNabb. Remember, because when he came in the league, he was, McNabb was always kind of he was a big guy. I mean,
Right.
Donovan McNabb was a big guy. But I remember there was one off season where because I ran to him when I was living in Voorhees, when he really started to bulk up right after the Super Bowl, I think it was. And then remember too, he missed a couple games in 2002, 2005 got hurt, 2006 got hurt, didn't play 16 in 2007, missed a couple games. And then that was kind of towards the tail end of his career. Washington, of course, Minnesota. He bulked up way too much. And these quarterbacks, some of them, they're not meant to have that type of mass on them, because what happens is you start to get muscle tears. You're not as flexible. You're not as limber. Rodgers is a strong quarterback. He's ripped up. Brady didn't have a ton of muscle mass, but he had it where he needed to. Manning had it down on the trunks. Tebow was down on the trunks. Tebow was kind of like a guy that almost like a fitness model. But point being, some of these quarterbacks, when they start to add muscle mass to their frame, to their body, it doesn't help. I think in Tua's case, he might be too leaned out, but if he's quicker, we already know he has a very quick release, then he should be fine as long as that offensive line keeps him upright.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. But I guess I didn't pay that much of a heavy attention to McNabb, because once he started throwing at people's ankles and their feet, he started driving me bananas. And don't know what it was at the time, but overall, he's always going to be loved, I guess, in Philly. Number 5 will always love you, as he loved to see when he exited out and came back over to the link when they retired his
He's so bitter he never won a Super Bowl with the Eagles.
I know.
He is so salty.
Yep.
And he's more salty that a backup had to come in down the road, right? Even though he was not even part of the franchise in that regard. But no, you mentioned the worm burners when he used to throw them. A lot of that had to do with, again, he was short arm passes. Flexibility was gone. I mean, his release was awful. So, but yeah, Tua is going to be interesting. I think Miami's going to be good this year. I think the Bucs will be an interesting team. Yeah, I think Jacksonville is going to be a team to watch too. So you got those teams in Florida that I think they're going to be able to make some noise. And as we kind of dive into the season a lot more and start looking at these win totals and futures, hopefully when we do our picks and plays, we can help the listening audience put a little coin in the pocket. I saw that. What's his name came back from Philly last night? Who had the home run? Reese Hoskins, right?
Reese Hoskins.
I'll tell you, they're 42-19.
Yippers.
And the Braves are 7 back, and the Braves lost Acuna again. Like the Yankees and the Phillies, it seems as though we might be on that collision course for World Series.
Could be. Could be. We know how it happened in 2009 that I want to forget forever. But it could be. It could be running that course. Speaking of, shout out to Big Sarge and Big Sarge Media, who takes care of the Houston Texans. Do you believe the Texans will make another run as they did last year? Now they got their new spiffy H-Town uniforms.
Listen, the Texans are a real good team.
Yepers.
They got weapons. They got the quarterback, and they have a really good head coach in D'Amico Ryan. So yes, I think the Texans are going to win that division. But we always look at teams that arrive a year early. Sometimes we say they take a step back. I'd have to look at their schedule a little more, but we're going to go around the league. I'm going to give you all my predictions for the divisions, futures, win totals, over, unders, and whatnot. So we will have a substantial fun time with that. By the way, lineup for later in the week, Jonathan Marshall, NBA Finals right around the corner. We want to dive into that with him. Steve Gardner, Hall of Fame baseball writer, USA Today, will join the show on Friday, I believe. A little more of a whip around tomorrow, trying to book some fighters to jump on. But as always, we just want to invite and encourage everyone not only to log on to Broad Street South, but listen live on Sports Radio 102.9 FM The Game. Check out, support Riptide Media Network, the fastest growing network that's streaming down there in Florida. We cover the gamut. Monday to Friday, Pete Shepard, 7 to 10, Martinez Company, 10 to 12, myself, 12 to 1. A lot of show news and notes and network news coming very soon that we think everyone will start to gravitate towards. And we try to give you some opinions, have a little fun, keep it light, and also just kind of educate and throw in a little knowledge here and there. So as always, we appreciate everyone jumping on board. I know it's 1:00. We got to start wrapping it up, but appreciate Lloyd Vance jumping on board. And of course, the host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football 1029 The Game. Don't forget, download the app, as Angel says. Download the app, download the app, download the app. What do you got?
If you guys want to hear the best song to go out to that my hermano will laugh probably his ass off to, it can't get any better than this.
Yes, that song is banned like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 76ers. You will get a call from my agent. That song, you can play that during the football season if we have some kind of bet, but that's just a nasty. Take me out with something else. That is just nasty. Get it out of my mouth. I can't end my friggin' Tuesday in Jersey like that. 1:00 straight up. Don't forget, all the shows are going to be on demand. As always, appreciate everyone keeping us tuned in and locked in for the last 60 minutes. Pete Shepard will start you off during the week 7 to 10. Martinez and company 10 to 12. Myself 12 to 1. Middays with Q. Angel Martinez keeping us on the air, producing the show. As always, appreciate everyone. You can follow me on social media at RichQ on Q, YouTube channel RichQ on Q. Have a wonderful, safe, sound Sports Tuesday. We will talk to you tomorrow on a Wednesday. As always, hasta luego, buen día.